Welcome to the Added Time podcast from Liverpool TV, your home of all things football and sport on Merseyside. I'm David Brindle, and this week I'm joined by Everton fan Paul Cru to discuss the controversy from the Manchester United game, and Liverpool fan Paul Jones is here to discuss Liverpool's drop in momentum. We'll also be talking about Mason Holgate's new contract, looking ahead to the upcoming games for both teams, and discussing which players we will pick for the Premier League's Hall of Fame. Let's get started. Okay, welcome to the show. Paul Cru is here, Everton fan. Paul, how are you?
Very well.
How's your week been?
Yeah, been alright, yeah. Not been too bad.
We'll talk about Everton and the debacle in a moment at Manchester United. Paul Jones, Liverpool fan, how are you?
I'm okay, yeah, thanks.
Nice to see you.
And you?
Nice to see you as well, by the way, Paul.
Thanks very much.
Don't think I'm being, you know.
No.
Let's talk about Liverpool to start with then. Three out of the last 4 games have ended in defeat. Obviously, the season that Liverpool have had so far, people overreacting to the fact that there's three defeats in 4 and saying, oh, you know, there's uproar on social media. Have they been that bad?
I think you've got to take each game separately. So, yeah, I understand why people are having a little bit of a moan on social media and things, but if we'd have lost to Watford 6 months ago and then gone 15 games unbeaten, I think people will be feeling totally different now. It's just that it's all happened one after the other. I don't think the winter breaks helped us. You know, everyone disappeared for a week and went off. And I know, as we always say, they don't go off on the ale and, sitting off in Benidorm or whatever, but they've gone away. And for me, it looks like, this season's been a marathon. It's been a 38 game running, which we're now 28 games through. And the way I describe it is, if you run a marathon and you get to 15 miles in the marathon, you're in the zone and you just keep going and it just works, and it might be hurting you, but you just go through the pain because you're in the zone. You try and stop at 15 miles, walk for a mile, and then start again at 16 miles. You won't start again, and that's what it looks like is happening with Liverpool at the moment. Is, we've sort of done 15 miles of the marathon very, very well. We've stopped for a week and we're struggling to get going again. If you talk at sort of Watford, it wasn't even that, sometimes when you get beaten games, you can look and go, he was poor, or, he's had a decent game. It was 1-14, just had a shocker from minute 1 to minute 95. Absolute shocker. I know Lovren's been made the scapegoat. He had a poor game. He was at fault. For me, when you're playing against Watford, you don't get in a battle with Troy Deeney. Troy Deeney is probably one of the most successful at sucking defenders into a battle, wrapping their arms around them, and putting his backside into them, basically making it difficult to come through him. And Lovren fell for it.
It's a workhorse Deeney as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's to be honest with you, he's one of them that's horrible to play against.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's never going to give you a minute. I don't mean necessarily, he's not got the greatest quality, but he never gives up. He's always chasing you. And there was a period after about 5-6 minutes where the ball got played to Lovren and Deeney just ran towards him and Lovren kicked it out for a throw-in. And it went into the stand, and obviously Watford got the ball. And I think Lovren went then, his head went. And every time he got the ball, he just wanted to get rid of it quick. For me, with the likes of Deeney, especially when Fabinho was playing, you can just tell Fabinho to come and win the header, and Lovren can drop off and pick up the bits. Because when he was winning it, he was flicking it on to nobody because he was up on his own. But Lovren seemed to get in the battle, and there was no one behind him then to pick up the bits. So we really struggled with that. The other thing, Delafeu, went off early, but there were signs before he went off that you've got to keep him on his left foot.
Yeah.
He plays on the left wing, he wants to cut in on the right, and then obviously try and bend one in.
It's out for the season now as well.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, no one wants to see players get injured. But I was thinking when he went off that it would be a bit of a plus point for Liverpool from a tactical point of view. I certainly don't mean that it was a plus point because he got injured, because he's one of their best players, and you've got to show him wide. He's got pace, and we didn't. There was a couple of times where he ran at Alexander-Arnold, and Alexander-Arnold showed him inside. And then the third thing is, Watford are going to stick 11 men behind the ball when they haven't got it, and they're going to make it very difficult for you. And we seem to lack ideas. We seem to just be crossing the ball into a block of 11 men. For me, when it's a team like that, you've got to drag them out, you've got to entice them out. And at 0-0, for me, we could have been a bit less, I don't think the word is desperate, but a bit less forthcoming in trying to get the ball in the box. Maybe just knock it around a bit more, get them to come out, maybe put it in and bring it out again, so that all of a sudden they'll go, well, I'll have a go for that. And they might just break the line. And obviously, the second you break the line, you've got the players who were good enough then to get in behind them. But we didn't. And we seem to, not necessarily panic, but we seem to just keep doing the same thing for 90 minutes, and it wasn't working.
We'll come back to that in a sec. Paul, we've got to talk about, it's VAR again, and I know people will hear VAR and go, fed up, like the coronavirus, I'm sick of hearing it.
It's my favourite subject, I love VAR.
Is it? I bet you didn't on Sunday because it was a joke.
I hate it.
Well, what was your your initial reaction to it? Did your reaction change from seeing it to seeing the replay?
This is my biggest problem with VAR. It ruins goals, especially when you're there. You're celebrating, right? And in the corner, you can just see players run over to the linesman. Now, look, the referee didn't have a good game. Not just that decision. There was a couple. He books a DB for coming back on the pitch too early. Now, don't get me wrong, he shouldn't have done that. But that's not a booking offence. Fred at one point was on a yellow and basically chest bumps the ref. Doesn't do nothing there. Then now when I looked at it, I was like, you don't know why it's been disallowed for at the time. Now, they gave the Premier League explained why they didn't give it, and they said he's in an offside position and he's interfering with play because he's blocking the keeper's view. Now, De Gea's 6'4", Sigurdsson's on the floor, right? And if you look at all the images, he's not blocking any view, and it's an own goal. But the biggest thing for me was, if you're going to check VAR, right, why was Sigurdsson on the ground? Because Wan-Bissaka took him out. Everton have received 0 pens this season. Now, to me...
Is that true? No penalties?
No penalties, Newcastle as well. Now, we could have had a couple against, I remember Brighton, for instance, and Watford, but going back to that, the referee gave the goal. The linesman didn't flag. Now, the players have complained. They went, let's check the VAR. Now, it was Jonathan Moss, who's one of my favourite refs. And I think everyone's... Now, he used to be James Milner's PE teacher, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He should have stayed a PE teacher, in my opinion. But, so don't get me wrong, they're under a lot of pressure in that room. And like, it's got to be like... Well, I'd assume so. But who's in charge? You know what I mean? Who's in charge?
Well, yeah. Surely the person under more pressure is the one who's on the pitch.
Oh, the ref is, yeah. I mean? The ref is.
I think if I was a referee, and I know you've got some experience in refereeing, Paul, you get your sort of schedule for the week and it goes Stockley Park, you're going, oh, sound.
Yeah.
Day off. Do you know what I mean? And I don't understand how he's managed to say, oh, that's offside. Pulls his legs out the way, and as you say, he's not blocking his view.
No.
It's embarrassing.
See, now I've seen some Evertonians on social media saying he should have got up. Well, no, if he'd have stood up, then he would have been interfering with play.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know, if he didn't move his legs and the ball hits him, then the flag goes up.
Yeah.
So what's he supposed to do?
Exactly. But when you look at De Gea's line of view, it's not affected him at all. He's not looked at him once. No. And look, obviously they know what VAR's there for. They're going to appeal it.
Yeah.
And they've went for it. I've seen people saying, oh, well, if it was Man United doing it, would that goal have stood? I don't know. We can't answer that. We can say that United have been given the most pens this season. You know, nothing's changed there, really.
I think that harps back to an old generation. Of course, it does. As well, doesn't it?
Does. Now, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one likes VAR, VAR. But I'll say, it's not the technology that's our fault. It's the people in these rooms making the decisions. But why doesn't the ref just go and have a look? The screens there, they do it in rugby, they put it on the screens. Now, people are saying, yeah, put it on the screens. It's different with football and rugby. If you show a controversial decision in those stands, it could cause, that's why they don't show replays and stuff like that. But, of course, it's frustrating.
Of course it is.
It's more points lost because of that.
Yeah, and, as I say, it should have been 2-1. It's a clear goal. Were you upset or proud of Ancelotti being sent off? Because he's had a goal, but then it's banned. Yeah.
I liked it. And I'll tell you why. Because, let's go back to Marco Silva. Would he have done that? No. Now, to me, that just shows Cavana, as the ref's name was.
Yeah, Chris Cavana.
Yeah.
Who refereed Liverpool's game last night.
That to me, if you obviously the footage from Sky where Ancelotti's having a go with him, Cavana's not looking at him, he's like this.
Very smug.
Very smug, arrogance, which is a lot of people have said.
I noticed that.
And I also noticed that the camera's there.
Yeah.
And then decide, I'm going to give you a red card. Now,
that's a Pep Guardiola move, that, isn't it? Like, there's the camera, I'll start going mad and giving it all this.
That's it. And now, what I really liked about it, though, was Duncan Ferguson was, like, pulling him back at one point.
Was he, yeah?
Which is, like, you'd think that'd be the opposite
way
around.
Yeah, but Ancelotti'd have no chance getting big dunk away either, would he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. but he's got a reason to be angry, you know what I mean? A lot of people are, especially when you see it back. But, again, and it's not just Everton, it's happened to several teams this season. It seems like every weekend there's always a contentious decision, and I don't think we've had a weekend of Premier League football where it's not been talked about VAR. You know, I mean, everyone's sick of talking about it.
It gets boring, but at the same time, when it's your club,
exactly, yeah,
it's annoying, isn't it?
It's been a few bad ones for Everton this season. The Dele Alli one was my favourite at home when Dele Alli decided to defend the corner with Yerry Mina and jumps up with his arm.
Yeah.
And that was the longest one. It took them 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And they looked at it 22 times and went, no penalty. And
but again, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no pressure on them because no one can see them.
There's not.
You know
and that's the other problem, I think. But for me, in the stand at that Spurs game, I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. What are they checking for?
Yeah.
No one knows, you know. And again, like, when that goal went in, you don't know at the time, but I've got 2 cousins who are Man United fans that they live in Ireland, and they're like, I said to them, what's your opinion? He goes, it's harsh, but I can see why it was given. And I was like, no, I can't see why it was given, you know what I mean? Like, as I say, if he was standing up, he's interfering with play.
Yeah.
He's down. And also, give us the pen then.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to retrospectively check that, go back 10 seconds earlier and take him out. But the other side of it is, Sigurdsson really should have buried that. And if he had, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's true.
What do you think of Pickford for the United goal?
Jordan, who's you know, I've been up and down with him, he should have saved it, but I'd also go back and go, there was more errors than that. It come from our kick-off, you know what I mean, playing it short from the back. I know that's the in thing to play from the back. Sometimes it's just better off going direct. Calvert-Lewin and Richie, very good up, you know, in the air. It comes from a mistake from Everton where we lose the ball in our own half. Should he save it? Of course he should. You can see he's frustrated. 2 goalkeeping errors, really, wasn't it? Like, David De Gea's one was a real clanger, and I enjoyed Calvert-Lewin on social media saying goal of the season, the caption. But it was interesting to see that it was 2 goalkeeping errors, and then both keepers have pulled off good saves. Because Pickford makes 2 good saves towards the end of the game that, you know, United could have won it from there. But he looks a good player there, Fernandes, doesn't he? The Portuguese one. Looks like a bargain they've got from him. I say bargain, about 40 million. But in this transfer market, Pickford should save it. He should. He needs to cut out the errors. It's the frustrating thing with him. Lately, in the last year or so, he's made a lot of errors and then made good saves. But as we've discussed previously, I think sometimes that World Cup was the worst thing for him. I think he's got a bit of an ego. When you see him down and pint at the darts, sure, people have said, well, he's just enjoying himself. Hang on a minute. If you're enjoying yourself, sit there and enjoy your bevy. Don't have to down it, and you know everyone's watching, and it doesn't look good, does it?
Yeah.
If you're not on top form. Need to stop scrapping with Newcastle fans as well.
I think I read somewhere that he's made more errors since August 2018 than any other player in the Premier League.
It was funny, like, I seen a stat, I think it was on Match of the Day, and it come up saying that this season, I believe, David De Gea, Jordan Pickford tied at the top. 7 errors. So
you wouldn't have thought that a couple of years ago.
No,
you really wouldn't have thought that.
Come with a bright reputation.
Well, Man United wanted him, didn't he? When De Gea was the whole fax machine issue with Real Madrid and whatever it was. Yeah. Sound okay? You've just spoke about talking out from the back there, and I think we need to talk about that now with Liverpool's game at Chelsea. Certainly the first goal, Paul. But all the goals, 2 goals were mistakes. Why do you think there's mistakes coming out, especially in something that Liverpool do all the time, playing off from the back?
It's quite uncharacteristic, really, isn't it?
Especially from someone like Fabinho.
Yeah, it's happened a few times where, you know, we might have got away with it, where we've given the ball away, sort of in our own defensive third. Again, I think it comes from the momentum, and the winter break has sort of hampered that. You know, there was a couple yesterday from Andy Robbo where he's got the ball and there's a simple pass down the line, you know, 20, 30 yards into somebody's feet. and he tried to play it inside. Now, to be fair to Chelsea, I thought they set up very well. They pushed on us, they pressed up quite high. If one centre-half got the ball, then I think it was Giroud would go and sort of mark the other centre-half so that we couldn't play out the other side. You'd have one of the wingers would push on the full-back, depending on which side it was. And they really sort of pressed on us to make us go long. Obviously, then when we go long, you're going to back your centre-half against the centre-forward to come through and win it, and then pick up the second ball. So I don't know whether we're just trying too hard, whether we've let a bit of complacency set in, whether because of the run we've been on previously, obviously to that Atletico Madrid, that we've maybe sort of got a bit overconfident. For me, we've just got to go forward. We've just got to start going back to basics. Just, you come out and you get your first 5 passes right. You set the tempo, quick tempo, and there's been a couple of times, especially in the Watford game and also Atletico Madrid, we've been a little bit too slow. So there's passes on, and we took that extra touch and then give it, which gives the opposition the chance to close you down. If you move that ball first touch, all of a sudden that 15 yards becomes a long way. So for me, we've just got to increase the tempo, and I don't know whether because of how well we've been doing, players have gone, this is a little bit easy now, we'll take our foot off the gas. And the last couple of results show you that the minute you stop playing to your potential, and the minute you stop playing the Liverpool way, you'll get punished.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you noticed that with this new rule this season where the goalkeepers can pass in their own box, have you seen how many goals people have conceded because of it? Like Arsenal did it against Watford when they were 2-0 up and it led to them equalising. But again, you don't have to use that, you know what I mean? Like I've seen it loads of times, especially with Everton against United. Frustrates me sometimes because it's like managers are ashamed to go direct. Like it's the, it still works sometimes. I mean, Duncan Ferguson did it very well at Everton when he took over for the caretaker thing. But I don't know, sometimes, you want your defenders just to defend. Like look at John Stones, for instance, at City. He's like a great ball playing centre-half. To me, he's not progressed. To me, he's went backwards.
That's fair.
You want your defenders to defend at the end of the day. Of course, it's the in thing to have, like... It was Pep Guardiola's thing, wasn't it? I don't like Joe because he can't play out from the back. You want your goalies to make saves. You want your goalies to stop goals. You don't need your goalies to be skillful and stuff like that. Well, that's just my opinion.
It helps.
It looks good when it works.
You've got to have that foundation of I can stop a ball going in the net. Otherwise you're not a keeper.
I've got no problem. I think it depends on what point in the game you do it and also what the score is.
Sure.
I've got no problem if we're 1-0 up in going long and fighting for the second ball and playing the game in the other half, rather than, as you say, playing into your own area, inviting the opposition on, and then all of a sudden, what are you going to do anyway? Because all of a sudden, if you've got 2 and 3 men running at you, unless you've got options left and right, it's going to go long anyway.
Yeah.
So why not just take the risk away? If you're 1-0 up or 2-0 up or whatever, try and kill the game a bit. Get 80 yards up the pitch and playing their half. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, great. I mean, and you see it with a lot of teams. Like they'll go short, they'll play it from the centre half to the full back, who then will look up, go back to the centre half, play back to goalie, and then he goes long, and sometimes it just goes out for a throw-in. Yeah. So,
it's frowned upon though, isn't it? The long ball is frowned upon.
Unfortunately.
It's the reason why people like Sam Allardyce and Tony Pulis don't have a job.
Yeah.
Because fans will just reject that style of football.
Yeah, but, I mean, if it's every ball, then I get it, I appreciate it. But for me, there is a time and place. Sometimes if an opposition are playing with 40 yards of space behind them, then why try and play through them when you can just drop it over the top? Yeah. There's a famous quote that it's not about the long ball or the short ball, it's about the right ball. Yeah, and at times the right ball can be over the top or 80 yards. So there is a time and a place for it for me.
To be fair, I think both Liverpool and Everton do that now. Both teams will. I don't think either manager, Ancelotti or Klopp, is like, the ball's got to stay on the floor and you've got to make 35 passes before you can even think about shooting. As you say, Duncan Ferguson was in charge and he was like, Calvert-Lewin's good in the air, let's put it long. Liverpool, when they take kick-offs at the start, that ball's going long 95% of the time, or they'll put the ball in behind for Mane, and why not?
Okay.
Okay, Paul the Blue. Everton this week are travelling to Stamford Bridge. We just spoke about the whole debacle, as I like to call it, at the weekend. What is the... I mean, are they going to be motivated from the fact that they've kind of been stolen. They've had 2 points stolen off them really by a refereeing decision. Is that going to be motivation, or is that going to be harder for them to get over it?
I'd hope it was motivation. Yeah. I mean, if it was me, you'd just be like, Rob there, weren't we? Don't get down about it. Take your frustrations out on Sunday in a positive way. Now, you know, Chelsea, I think apart from maybe like the top two, I mean, even City have been inconsistent. There's only one team that's really been consistent for most of the season. Everywhere else has been up and down. And the most frustrating thing about Everton the last few weeks is we played Arsenal, played quite well. You know, I thought we deserved at least a draw out of it. Simple mistakes again cost us points. Yeah. So we need to go into games like this having the belief that we can get a victory. Now, I've got a bad stat about this game. This is the longest game, well, like if you look at fixtures in the Premier League, or even going back further, Everton haven't won there in, I think it's 27 years.
It's got to change sometime.
It's got to. I mean,
that's what I always think about these stats. Is like,
they're there to be broken.
It's got to be broken.
They're
yeah,
to
exactly.
be broken, and you know, of course they're going to be frustrated. Carlo's frustrated from what's happened, but I like the fact that Carlo doesn't really think about it. Like I remember when we conceded 2 in the injury time against Newcastle, he just turned around and said, "I'm not going to criticise my players. We play great. Sometimes that just happens." Yeah. You know, so I think he's got that cool-headed nature about him. Whether he's banned, we don't know, because if he appeals it, he will be. But the good thing is, I mean, if he is got to sit in the stands, Duncan's proved that he's capable of motivating players on the touchline.
He's got a son there next to him as well, hasn't he?
That's it, yeah. And the only problem is, I bet you them ball boys at Goodison, I'm gutted that we are not at Goodison if Duncan was there, because every one of them on that last game against his last game against Arsenal, you could see them ball boys like, I can't wait if Everton score. I'm running right to the big man. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a tough game. Chelsea have been a bit up and down. Tammy Abraham looks to be out, which is a plus, but Giroud's come into big form again. Now, I've always been a fan of him. I couldn't believe Arsenal fans used to give him a load of stick. Everywhere he goes, he gets goals.
Yeah. But how important is this game now in the running to aim into Europa League, maybe Champions League? How big is this game? Because I know Ancelotti was talking about this run of games and saying this is going to be really, really important for Everton. How big is this one now after the results that have gone? How big is this going forward?
Realistically, like, I was obviously with the 5th place potentially getting Champions League, you've got to win it if you want to aim for that. Europa League, you know, look, don't get me wrong, people will probably say a draw away at Stamford Bridge is a decent result. I'd like to go in open to get 3 points. I'm sure the Blues are thinking that as well. If we want to get into these spots with the fixtures coming up, we're going to have to start winning some of these games. You know what I mean? We've got Spurs away coming up. We've got the Merseyside derby at home. So there's no easy fixtures in the Premier League. But then again, if you look at United's running, Chelsea's, Arsenal's, their running's not easy as well. So it's got to be, if you want to get that 5th spot, which a couple of weeks ago looked more attainable. Yeah. But like, it's so tight, the Premier League. Like, let's say if that goal had stood, Everton would have been 2 points behind United. They were in 5th. So that's how close it is, you know.
And there's still a long, long way to go.
There is.
And plenty of games left.
I think it's whoever puts in the best run of form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what everyone's looking to do. And
no one seems to be able to do it though at the moment, do they? Everyone seems to be dropping points.
There's no consistency, is there?
Yeah, you're right. Paul, obviously, Liverpool have just played at Stamford Bridge against a relatively strong Chelsea team. What lessons can Everton learn from Liverpool's failings?
What we've just talked about, really, maybe put the ball on them a bit more. I don't think we tested Chelsea's back four enough, and that was because they pressed us high and made it difficult for us to get out. I think, you know, Everton have got a lot of pace now going forward in Calvert-Lewin and also obviously Richarlison, and you know, I don't think Chelsea will close Everton down as much as they did against Liverpool, so they might allow Everton a bit more time on the ball. For me, I'd be putting it over the full-back's head. You know, Alonso on one side and probably Azpilicueta on the other side. Alonso likes to push forward. He might leave a bit of space behind him. And for me, if I was Calvert-Lewin, I'd be looking to start central and get beyond, you know, and spin off and be pulling centre-halves out wide and stuff. So I think if Everton, you know, keep it short in their own half, and then once they get towards sort of the middle third of the pitch, they might have, you know, a little bit of space to drop it into. They've got Walcott there with a bit of pace. Is he? Because I know he's had a couple of knocks, hasn't he, lately? Is he looking?
He always has a bit.
Yeah, is he looking like he's going to be fit?
He's a walker.
You know, Iwobi's got a bit of pace. So there's a lot of pace going forward in wide areas, you know, that Everton can use to exploit Chelsea. I actually think based on Chelsea's performance against us, that Everton can go and get something there. I really do. I know they beat us 2-0 and they played a style that stifled Liverpool. But I wasn't that impressed with Chelsea in terms of, you know, they went out wide one way and then switched it to the other side and tried to sort of exploit our fullbacks, you know, because obviously our fullbacks like to push on as well. And, you know, Everton's form of late since Ancelotti come in says to me that they can certainly go there and get something.
I think the scoreline yesterday flattered Chelsea a bit. What did impress me about them though was they seemed really quick on the break.
Yeah.
Which I'd watched them at previous times and we were just talking about Willian. Like, why won't they give him a new contract? Yeah. I know he's 30 or 31 coming up to it, but like we were saying, give him a 2-year deal. But they look quick on the break. Pedro looked a bit leggy towards the end. Look, I know Barkley scored. Not my favourite person in the world, that man, but he'd be gagging to score against Everton, that lad. He would. Now, like, for me, he is a player that had so much potential, I always thought. You know, that first season under Martinez looked amazing. And then he just sort of stuttered. His form was very inconsistent, as it's been at Chelsea. I mean, I seen a Chelsea fan reaction after the Bayern Munich game. And I can't say what they said about Ross, because they were very articulate. And then right at the end, they said, and P.S. F. Ross Barkley. And I was like, I've been there, mate. But he's one of those players that... in my opinion, he's got West Ham written all over him.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, he's got West Ham on loan written all over him. But at times he looks great. Yeah. At times he looks great, and then at other times he just goes missing. He's a confidence player. He needs an arm over the shoulder. You know what I mean? And I think the misconception was there was comparisons when he was younger to Steven Gerrard. He's not that player at all. He doesn't get stuck in. He doesn't tackle. And the main reason a lot of Evertonians don't like him and myself is he had was it a 30 million move to Chelsea, pulled out of it, saying, don't know if I'm ready to move. They looked at that injury, meant he can't play for so many months, and then he got sold for 15 million. If that's your boyhood club, don't do that for what? An extra signing on fee?
Yeah. I'd look at him. Whether he'd get into our team every week is another matter, but I'd look at him. I think he offers something that we miss at the moment, and I think his goal this week against us is a prime example of what we miss. Someone who can pick up the ball inside his own half and just drive through midfield, carry that ball, run with power and get a shot off at the end. And, you know, I know he comes with his baggage, you know, and I know we all know the stories of what's happened in and around football and away from football. But as you say, if you can get someone who'll put his arm around him and just say, you know, let's get yourself settled down. You're going to be in this squad. You'll probably play 20, 25 games a season. Come home back to your city. I think he might be interested in that, and I think he would offer us something that at the moment we haven't got in our squad.
Would you not say Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain offers something quite similar to Ross Barkley?
In a more wide position.
Okay.
And I think the problem, and I know Ross Barkley's had his injury problems, but what worries me about Chamberlain is he just starts to hit form and then he gets injured. Yeah. And that's what worries me about that, I think. And I suppose it's a risk with any player, that I think Barkley's got a bit more durability about him than Oxlade-Chamberlain, let's say. So, similar, I see where you're going with the comparison, but I don't know if Oxlade-Chamberlain could pick up the ball, 15, 20 yards inside his own half and drive forward like he did the other day against Liverpool and get a shot off at the end. I know he done it a couple of times against Man City before his injury, didn't he, Chamberlain? Picking the ball up sort of 15, 20 yards inside the opposition half. So, I do see the similarities, but for me, it would be someone, because we've also, there is going to be players leaving in the summer, so there is going to be gaps to fill, and he is someone that I would potentially look at to fill one of those gaps.
Speaking of the Ox, one of my friends who's a Liverpool fan, Tony Murray, will enjoy this. He taught me one of the Liverpool chants. I'll just say it involves 6 times the Ox and Little Mix, and I was laughing my head off going, that's funny, that.
It was first aired in Genk away, it's
of all places. So, okay, let's talk about Liverpool then. Bournemouth. Obviously, we've just spoke about 3 defeats in 4 games, and you've now got Bournemouth at home. if you could handpick a fixture from the Premier League where you go, if I have a bad run, that's the game I want at home. Is Bournemouth at home the one you'd want?
It's one of them.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as any disrespect, but you know that Bournemouth are not going to come and kick it off the park. You know they're going to come and try and play football.
Yeah.
They've got quite a few injuries at the moment as well, which you know they've struggled with. They've just got a couple of players back. I think Lerma scored last week, didn't he, for them? You know, and I think Nathan Aki has come back. He's one of their main defenders, isn't he? You know, and he sort of holds the back four together. But we had a similar situation last season where we drew with Leicester, if you remember, and then we drew away at West Ham in a short space of time, and we played Bournemouth at home just after them 2 games, and we beat them. I think it was 2-0 or 3-0. It's one of them games. Like, I think Naby Keita will play on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's not going to get kicked. He knows that he's probably going to get a little bit of time and space. He's had a few decent games against Bournemouth because of that. So it gives him the confidence then to get on the ball, start playing, you know, getting forward. So, you know, without any disrespect, it is one of the games that you'd probably look for and go, we're not in great form at the moment, but we know that Bournemouth are probably going to let us play a little bit. You know, and as I say, they're not going to come and kick us off the park. So hopefully we can sort of stamp our style on the game and make it a long afternoon for them. But, you know, for me, given the last few results, Saturday now becomes an absolutely massive game for us. And I think, you know, not just the players, but I think us as supporters, we've got to turn up as well. You know, I know it's 12:30 kick-off. Nobody particularly likes 12:30 kick-offs, but we've got to get there and we've got to show the players that, you know what, we've had a little blip, but we're still behind you. And, you know, hopefully then that'll reflect in the players' performance as well.
I'm going to come back to the whole thing of being at home and what it means for looking ahead to Atletico. Would you agree that Bournemouth at home is the perfect game to have if Everton have just come off a result like a run like Liverpool have, where they've lost 3 of the last 4? You know, for Bournemouth at home, do you go, oh, we're going to be all right?
You don't want to disrespect them, because like I kind of like Eddie. I always took a lot of slack this season, but I always look at the job he's done overall. Bournemouth this season, they've been very inconsistent, because in the last couple, I mean, everyone remembers when they come up, but not everyone writ them off. Everyone's like, they're going to go down. Every other season, they've never been in a relegation battle, really. They've always been very comfortable. Yeah. They've never been sucked into it. This season they have, and when you look at the bottom 5, bottom 6, it's very tight. And they're the ones I can see slipping into it, because, as you said, they've had a lot of injuries. Do like Eddie out, but I kind of look at it and go, can he take them any further? You know what I mean? He's done such a tremendous job. Obviously, they're restricted with the stadium capacity, but yeah, I'd look at it for several reasons, that you'd want to play them because they're going to want to try and play football. That's the way they play, and I like that, appreciate that. They're not a team that's going to put 11 men behind the ball and make it hard like that, but I can see Bournemouth getting sucked into this relegation battle. I know they're in the roundabouts there anyway. Yeah. They've been on a bad run. They had a great result against Chelsea. Disappointing for me personally, because me and the lads have had last man standing, and I looked at it and went, similar to what we're saying here, I went, Chelsea playing here. I'll go with Chelsea. And then I'm watching it going, oh.
And that's where it bites you.
It's not me, Everton, that knocked me out of that as well. But
you just said something there though about, and I totally agree, I think Eddie Howe's done a fantastic job. He left and went to Burnley where it never worked out, you know, and then obviously went back. So, but how far do you think Bournemouth can actually go? Because with all due respect, they are a 3rd and 4th division club. You know, he saved them from going out of business. They were on the way out of the Football League. It's absolutely, you know, it's Roy of the Rovers stuff, really. But how far can they go? You know, it's not a massive town. It's not a football hotbed like Liverpool, Manchester, that type of thing, Glasgow. How far can they go? And like you've just said, has he took them as far as Bournemouth FC, AFC Bournemouth can go? And if he was to leave, you know, where would AFC Bournemouth look to go beyond that? You know, what I'm trying to say is, for me, I think he's done an outstanding job, and they're probably punching well above the weight, like they have been for the last, you know, even before they came into the Premier League, probably the last 15 years, you know what I mean, that where they're punching well above the weight. And I think you've made a great point that, you know, has he taken them as far as they can go? But actually, is it the club now limiting Eddie Howe's ability and not Eddie Howe limiting Bournemouth's ability?
It's interesting you touch on Burnley, because my thoughts on Eddie Howe is that he missed his chance to go and take a big job. Arsenal were linked with him, but Everton linked with him at
Everton
one
were
point
linked with
as
him
well.
twice, yeah.
So, you know, that's a bigger job than Bournemouth. That's a massive job for anyone.
He's boiled Evertonian as well.
Is he? Yeah.
No, before Koeman, I believe it was, got the job, he did like an interview where he was basically to me it read like he was wanting. He said, "Yeah, I used to watch Everton in the 80s. My dad take me." It was like he was selling himself, sort of. Yeah. And at the time, I looked at him and thought that wouldn't be a bad appointment, really. But has this season hindered him? You know what I mean? Has this season hurt his job prospects?
A little bit, yeah. I think he's missed his chance. That's what I'm saying. But as you say, we say about Burnley, he's been there, he's tried it hasn't worked. You know, he's come back and he's in his comfort zone.
I think if you look at the style of Burnley, though, the complete polar opposite to the style of Bournemouth.
Definitely.
So you go to Turf Moor, you know they're going to be in your face, you know it's going to be up in the air, probably more than it's on the floor. You know it's probably going to be the good old standard 4-4-2, get it into two big centre forwards, hold defenders off, you know. And if you, with all due respect to the Burnley players, if you go in a footballing sense what Eddie Howe is, it's very difficult to get players who are used to turning defenders and putting it 80 yards down the pitch to actually just play it 10 yards. And I always say it's the easy option to go long, and a lot of players aren't good enough to keep it short and go 10 yards. And I think that's where Eddie Howe struggled at Burnley, is that he's tried to implement his style and the players weren't good enough to fulfil that style.
Just quickly, how important is this game looking ahead to the Atletico Madrid game at Anfield after it?
It could go either way, because if you win the game, you go into the Atletico game with a bit of confidence, both as players and supporters. If you don't win the game, or you get into 70, 80 minutes and it's still 0-0 and people start to get a bit edgy, then it could turn as a negative effect for the Atletico game. So that's why, for me, it's so important that you go into the game, you get in the faces, you move the ball quickly, you make it a long 90 minutes for them. You hopefully go and win the game, and then you concentrate on what's going to be a tough game against Atletico.
Well, that's all we've got time for in this week's edition of the Added Time podcast from Liverpool TV. For more sports and news from Merseyside, don't forget to tune in to Merseyside Live every evening from 6 p.m. My thanks to both Pauls and to you for watching, and we'll be back next week with all things Everton and Liverpool. Bye for now.